What's up, guys, and welcome back to another edition of Competitive Edge Podcast. So today we have a true competitor. Austin Hatch and I had connected up online. You're going to hear some of his story and his journey that I can tell you as he talks about some of the kind of what I would say phrases and mottos. Adversity is an opportunity stuck out to me. He's got a grit framework that we're going to talk about. And actually somebody that I started looking at his story and some of the adversity. When you hear his story and what he's overcome, it will put in perspective things that we deal with. And sometimes we make problems into much bigger issues than they are. And we've all been faced with adversity. Let's be real. We've all faced adversity. You might be facing it right now. The reality is, if you're not, you're probably headed into some type of adversity. And so today's conversation is going to be about how do we deal with that? How do we respond to that and make sure that we're showing up in a highly effective and competitive way? And so I'm excited to get into Austin's story today. Not only is he a speaker, he's a coach. And he's got a lot of things that I believe through his own real life experience, being a dad of two, playing college basketball, things that he's actually done in his life. I think you're going to resonate in his story and see some of your own life. And so that's always the fun of these. So make sure you buckle up, grab a pen and paper. We're going to get going. Austin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Great to be with you.
Oh, dude, I'm excited for this. As I was prepping, I always find stories are really interesting. And so, to connect people up, I went back through your story, and at an early age, you faced adversity with your family and a loss there. And I'm reading it, and I'll be honest, I was like pulling my heartstrings because, I think about my family and being a dad like you are and what you went through, and then later had to go through something else. But let's start there, because I think people may not know some of your story. And how even as a young kid, you were starting to be wired as somebody that would respond to adversity differently.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me again. I really appreciate it. And I'm truly grateful. And before I get started, I think a lot of things in life come back to gratitude, right? I really believe that, because I've found what I've learned from my experiences is that it's literally impossible to be truly grateful and very negative at the same time. Those two emotions can't coexist. You can't be in a beautiful state of gratitude and appreciation for all the blessings in our life. That doesn't mean we ignore the challenges, right? But to spend more of our time and energy looking at the positives, can't be focused on the good and also be very negative. Those two emotions literally can't coexist. At least that's just what I found. But yeah, as I said, not ignoring anybody's challenges. So I have an amazing family in heaven. I'm so grateful for them and their impact on my life and the man my parents raised me to be, and they continue to impact me to this day, even though they're not here. But yeah, my dad was a doctor in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Also, we had a small family plane that would fly to go visit grandparents and relatives, things like that. And we were flying home Labor Day of 2003, September 1st. And as we prepared to land, the airplane crashed tragically and took life. My mom, Julie, she was 38 at the time, dad's high school sweetheart. My sister, Lindsay, she was 11, about to turn 12 a week later. And my little brother, Ian, was only 5. So devastating loss, obviously, incomprehensible loss. But yeah, my dad and I leaned on each other and pressed on and found ways to keep living through that. That's not something you ever really get through. I don't think you ever get to a point where that challenge is completely in the rearview mirror. But you just kind of learn to live with it and get adjusted to the new normal. So
I appreciate you sharing. That's not easy. Even as you're sharing it again, I'm like reliving it and thinking about that as you have kids and, with my parents and just relatives and things. And I'm sure everybody even listening, they face some loss, and that's the hard part as we get older is, we're none of us are getting out of this thing alive. At some point we all pass, and it happens tragically, but then as your story goes on, your dad remarries, and then later in your life, right before you were going to play ball, you had another.
Yeah. So my dad was remarried in 2005. Great blended family, restored some normalcy in my life for sure. Didn't replace what we lost, obviously, but nothing was ever going to replace that. But great to have a mom and siblings at home again. And I was working really hard on my basketball skills on the court. It was good to be pretty good. My dream was always play for Michigan. Coach Beeline, former coach at Michigan, I guess 2 coaches ago now, came to see me play February of my sophomore year of high school. Played a rival school from across town, had never beat them before, beat them 88-82, had a good game, and he saw all he needed to see, I think, and He waited till he saw the transcript from my semester of grades. Because, Michigan, obviously every school is you got to be a student athlete, but Michigan's Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Not to put Michigan above any other school, but, it's a tough academic school, and had to make sure I could handle the coursework there. So, and once he saw that I had good grades, he offered me a scholarship to play for him June 15th, 2011. Accepted on the spot. It was my dream come true, or first part of the dream, right? The dream was to go to Michigan and be a great player, but you got to get the scholarship offer first. So
that's right.
It was an amazing day. And life changed again a few days later, though.
Yeah, let's start by that story. And then I want to get into some of another piece of how you got to Michigan, because I think some of the things that I was learning and how you prepared, but you unfortunately then faced another kind of tragic loss, like right before you were going to school at Michigan, right?
Well, I committed June 15, 2011 as a sophomore, or just after my sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, that's right.
And then 9 days later, June 24th, my dad, Steve, my second mom, Kim, and I were flying to Northern Michigan. This time, the same place we returned from when the first plane crashed in 2003. Hit some bad weather, had to go to a different airport. And as you're preparing to land, tragically, the airplane crashed again. Killed my dad, Steve, my second mom, Kim. Should have killed me too, man. By the grace of God, I'm here. Nothing else. By the grace of God, I'm here. I was in a coma for like 2.5 months, and I'm fighting for my life. And again, by the grace of God, came out of it. And Coach B from Michigan, who we committed to each other, right? June 15th, we committed to each other. Second plane crash happened 9 days later, but when I came out of the coma, by the grace of God, I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. They didn't know if I was ever going to walk ever again. And he said, basically, Austin, he came to see me in the hospital. He got a special clearance from NCAA to come visit me. Because obviously it was unique circumstances, right? And so he came to see me in the hospital and basically said, I can't wait to have you on my team someday.
Wow.
I can't wait to coach you, man. Whenever you're able to come play for me at Michigan, I can't wait to coach you.
Wow.
I couldn't walk. Might have been in a wheelchair 4 years at Michigan. Didn't matter. He said, I made a commitment, so I made a commitment, which is an amazing thing. We'll talk about a little more in a few minutes. But, it was a journey, man. It was a journey and long road, 3 hard years of recovery. But was blessed to had amazing therapists and doctors and nurses who helped me. Amazing support system, amazing family. Yeah. So grateful for them. But, more than anything, it took some grit. Right? Mm-hmm. I think we're going to get into that a little bit. So,
well, man, thank you for sharing that, because I know it's not easy, and I never want to start on that note, but your story, man, it's like, it's unique. And as I'm reading it and preparing, I'm like, for you to survive and do what you've done and to continue on, and then to hear your coach honor that commitment, that's not always normal in our world. And I would love to know, as you look back on that now, years later, what are some of the lessons you take from that struggle that you went through? And I love that you're sharing your faith in there too, of like, that God got you through that, because that is a miracle. As I was reading it and seeing some of the things, I'm like, how you survived, and then how you're able to get out of a wheelchair and walk and do things again. As you look back, sometimes I have a different perspective. What are the lessons that you take from that? Maybe that somebody's listening could learn from you on that.
Well, I think there's many, because obviously the challenge is you don't learn. It's obviously nice when we win in life and business and anything. We all want to win, but it's easy to get a little complacent when you win, right? It's when we lose, when we go through challenges or adversity, that's when we we got to dig down deep and really find a way. And that was how I looked at my situation. It was like, and here's the thing: it wasn't a roadblock. I didn't die. By the grace of God, I survived. Like, I was here, so I was going to find a way. And I think the biggest thing for me is that, as I said, it took some grit. And my friend Angela Duckworth at the University of Pennsylvania, Wharton Business School, she's really smart, obviously. Yeah. She's an amazing lady. And, she says that grit's passion and perseverance for the long-term vision. Like, grit's about working for your long-term goals. That's true. Obviously, for me in my journey, going from a coma to playing for Michigan, that's a very long-term goal. That's many years down the road, right?
Yeah.
but grit's every day.
That's right.
Grit was getting out of bed. Grit was walking around the hospital floor one more time. Grit was learning how to run. Grit was learning how to shoot. Grit was right. Like, so grit's every day. So it's more specific than just hard work for the long-term goal. And I'll go through this really quick. Give me 1 minute. So it's 4 letters. There's 4 key components to it. But I think grit, first of all, I think it's driven by a greater purpose. I think we need to be driven by something bigger than ourselves all the time, because if it's just for us, it'd be nice if you overcame this challenge, found a way to bounce back from this adversity, this opposition. But yeah, it's only for me. So it's going to require too much time and effort and sacrifice. I'm not sure that it's really worth it. Right. But if it's for a greater purpose, something bigger than yourself, whether that's your faith, your family, your friends, your colleagues, your teammates, right? If it's for something bigger than ourselves, we're always going to be willing, right? Now, obviously, you're a dad of 3. I'm a dad of 2 now, 2 little ones. And my wife wants a few more, I think. So we're going to compromise and have a few more, I guess. But yeah. But it's like for my family now, like, right? And it's obviously, it's still my family in heaven, of course. It's still my faith, of course. It's still all those who are there to support me on my road to recovery and get me to where I am today. But it's my family now too. And I think if we have a greater purpose, we're always going to be willing. We're always going to be willing. And if we're just willing, I think if we're willing to have some grit, I think there's no way we don't overcome our challenges. So the G, the first letter, the growth mindset. The growth mindset views adversity as opportunity. I really believe that. Challenges are opportunities. There's no opportunity in the event, right? Nobody grows from high interest rates or tough market conditions, or I didn't grow from almost being killed in a plane crash, right? Yeah. You don't grow from losing a game in sports, but you grow by how you choose to respond. It's a choice to have the growth mindset. It's also a choice to have the victim mindset. That's unfortunately the more common choice, right? Feel a little sorry for yourself, complain about the things we can't control. But with the growth mindset, we see where we are, we see where we want to go, and we're just willing to find a way to get there. So when you have that growth mindset, it'll drive us to decide to be resilient. Make the decision to be resilient. I don't think you're resilient if you overcome your challenges and achieve your goals. I think you're resilient if you take action in the face of challenges and adversity. You're resilient if you take massive action in the face of adversity, right? My dad, my hero, he always said, go big or go home. Yeah. He said, go big or go home. And that's what resilience is. It's just deciding to go big in the face of adversity. And obviously, my thinking and what happened in my life, we went big and we were blessed to overcome it. Going big alone, though, doesn't guarantee we're going to overcome. It doesn't. But it'll give us a pretty good chance. Yeah. But going small in the face of adversity, having the victim mindset, that's going to guarantee we don't overcome. It's like in business. There's nothing, I don't know the mortgage business, but I would think there's not 3 things you can do to guarantee success or for your annual goals or 5-year goals. No 3 things you can do that guarantees you'll achieve those goals. But I guarantee you there's 3 things you can do that will guarantee you won't achieve them, right? Not following through on your commitments, not paying attention to detail, taking shortcuts. That's probably going to guarantee you don't.
Yeah, that won't work.
Right? So why wouldn't we just go big and give ourselves the best chance to achieve our goals? So the I is the big one. The I is integrity. Of course, we all know that integrity is about being honest, doing the right thing and no one's looking. Very important. Going about our business the right way. Obviously, very important. But in addition to that, I think integrity includes following through on our commitments, especially when the circumstances change. So I said earlier, Coach B offered me a scholarship to play for him June 15th, 2011. I was playing at a pretty high level. I had to get a lot better, right? I was only a sophomore in high school. So in the Big Ten, you got to be really good to play in the Big Ten. So, but I think he saw potential in me that I could help his team on the court. Second plane crash happened 9 days later. It should have killed me. But he came to visit me in the hospital in Chicago when I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk, might never walk ever again. And he basically said, I can't wait to have you on my team someday, man. Whenever I ever come to Michigan, I can't wait to coach you. So what I conclude from that is that his follow through and his commitment didn't depend on the circumstance, right? He made a commitment, so I made a commitment. And he said the follow through is a no-brainer. He said it's just what we do at Michigan. And I feel like from like an organizational, cultural, collaborative team perspective, right? If we can all do that, if we can all have our follow through and our commitments not be based on the circumstance. If people we work with in any area of life, if Austin, Brian, Susie, Jim, Sarah, if they made a commitment, they're going to get it done. It's just what they do. Of course, they're going to get it done. I feel like maybe one of us doing that is not that big of a deal. But if the whole team can buy into that, if everybody that we work with in any and whether it's outside the organization or inside, knows, Brian's team, they're going to get up. Yeah, of course. They said they're going to do this for me. Of course they're going to get it done. They always do, right? I feel like if we could be known as that kind of a team, that kind of a business, I feel like we're going to win. So last letter, T. T is the team first mentality, the team first mentality. Every person on the team has a role, and the role is very important. We don't all have the same role now, but every role is very important. So I know you didn't know this today, Brian, but I'm actually in the record books at Michigan, believe it or not. I'm in the record books, and my record will probably never be broken. I'm the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in program history at Michigan. I scored 1 point in 4 years.
I saw that.
1 point in 4 years, but I was on the team, right? So I had a role. Be a great teammate, shag balls in practice, help with drills, rebound and shoot out before games. Bring energy. Bring positive energy to the gym, to the weight room, just bring energy. That was my role. That was my role, right? And so I think what I learned, so my wife was a 3-time All-American volleyball player at Michigan. I've got about 7 or 8 teammates in the NBA now. They're really good players. I didn't have the same role as them.
Yeah.
So we may not be the best on the team, but we can all be our best for the team, right?
Hey guys, it's Brian here. I hope you are enjoying the show. By the way, if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur looking to grow your personal brand, make a bigger impact, maybe increase your leads and grow your revenue, let's help you get started today by connecting up with my friends over at the Brand Builders Group. You've heard me talk about them, but if you're new here, this is definitely the first step to get you started in turning your reputation into revenue. Head over to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey. Again, to set up your free brand call, go to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey to set up a free strategy call with one of the team at Brand Builders, and they will dive into your specific goals for how you want to grow your personal brand. I can't wait to hear how it goes. Dude, I love as you go through that framework.
Yeah.
What's great is it comes alive because I saw that, and as you're talking about it, man, I'd love to go back to the beginning and the G in this growth mindset of, one, how do people know if they have a growth mindset, a strong one or not? And if they realize it's not where they want it to be, what's your experience been about how can they improve that so that they can start to become someone that is known to have a growth mindset for themselves and for others?
Well, I think it's, for me, I learned it from sports, right? Like when you're down at halftime, you don't think you lost. You come back in the second half and try to come back and win, right?
That's
so
right.
You have a growth mindset. Well, okay, what do we need to fix? How can we get better? How can we improve so we play better in the second half, right? And I think just always looking for the opportunity, training ourselves to ask the question, when something happens, good or bad, where's the opportunity? How can I grow from this?
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good week. Okay, well, how do I need to grow? What can I do better? Maybe overall it was a really good week, but there's probably something in the week that didn't go as well as you wanted it to, right? Yeah. So where's the opportunity? How can we grow? How can we get better? And I think that like for me, obviously this is what I do for a living. I speak to organizations across the country for a living, and it's a great blessing to be able to do this. And it's a unique business. I get that, and my business is different than yours. But I experience challenges. I get shut down. I get no's. I'm in touch with companies. I really think they're going to hire me. Then towards the end of the sales pitch, they decide to go another direction.
Yep.
Fine. Okay, where's the opportunity? Okay, why did you choose him or her instead of me? There's no fault of your own. It's no issue. Just what could I have done better? Like, okay, and if they say, yeah, you weren't really aligned on what we were looking for. You kind of made your pitch, and we thought this person made it better. And sometimes when there's a better competitor, sometimes you just got to tip your hat and say, good game, job well done. But there's always opportunities to learn, and yes. I think it's just looking at life that way. And I look at that like with my family too. Like I'm obviously a young dad. I make mistakes. We all do. I'll probably make mistakes for the next 50 years of marriage, right? But like there's always opportunity. And it's not my wife played sports, and so she gets it. And I think the growth mindset is like it's not a reactive mindset. It's not, because the initial reaction when something goes wrong, the initial reaction is usually negative. It's usually frustrated, usually disappointed. That's fine. But I think you got to go from a reactive mindset to an opportunistic mindset. Where's the opportunity? Because there's always an opportunity, like in family, in business, in sports, in any area of life, there's always an opportunity to get better and grow. So I think doing that in the smaller, I don't want to say smaller adversity, but in the more day-to-day challenges, because there's something they say in the Navy SEALs. They say you don't rise to the occasion, you revert back to the level of your training.
That's right.
Right. And so it's like, if you don't train yourself to overcome things and train yourself to have a growth mindset, you can't expect to really have it when you need it. Right. So it's like when things don't go, maybe you lose the deal. Okay. Where's the opportunity in that? But then I'm not diminishing that, but then if something more serious happens, okay, well, I've trained myself to have the growth mindset in these day-to-day challenges. So now that this challenge came, I'm just going to have the same mindset,
Love it. Well, I want to honor what you said earlier, and it might have slipped by some people, so I don't want them to miss this. Is part of having a growth mindset, I believe, is what you just modeled and shared, is you sought feedback, whether they hired you or didn't hire you. And in these situations, a lot of times we just want to move on to the next thing. It's like if they said yes or they said no, we don't seek feedback. And I have yet to find a high performer in sports or in business life that didn't receive some feedback. Like I think about just, in our relationships, like our spouse gives us feedback. We might not be listening all the time, but there is feedback. And in business, as you're going out trying to get clients. And I love what you shared, because all of my friends in mortgage and real estate, financial services, a lot of our audience, when's the last time you asked for real feedback? And I'll share this with you. I'd love your take on this. I was speaking recently at a couple of events, and afterwards I asked a few key people in the audience that I respect, I trust them. And I said, I want you to give me real feedback, right? Like, let's just set aside the things that we probably both can agree on that went well. I want to improve. And so while those might help me confidence-wise, like I want you to give me one or two things that if I were to do them or that I missed and maybe not even aware of, you could help me raise my level up. And just reframing the question gave me better responses. And then it gave them permission in a way to say, hey, I thought you did well here, but did you consider this, or what about this? And you didn't go deeper here. And like, this was really awesome, but you kind of just went past it real quick. And seek feedback. So for anybody that might struggle with this, it sounds like it's very natural for you, which I think for athletes, man, we're just like, we're wired different. How do you seek feedback that somebody out there is like, dude, I don't do this at all? How can they start to get some feedback to help them grow?
Well, I think it's, not because a lot of people don't want to give you the tough feedback. And I don't, every time I speak, I always try to get feedback. I always ask, well, what can I do? I say, great presentation. I say, cool. What could I have done better? What can I do better? Right. And if just ask if there was one thing I could do better, what would that be? And most of the time, every presentation, it's a different answer to that question, which maybe is a whole nother issue. Maybe that means I really need to invest in my delivery and get a lot better, which obviously I do. But it's like everybody hears the message differently. And not like I give the same presentation twice, or you don't give the same presentation twice, but someone, okay, this little mistake you made, or this little, error in the delivery wasn't, maybe they missed that, but they caught something else. And so it's like, I just try to pull from a lot of different people, like, so whether it's I'm speaking to financial services, or it's insurance, or it's food, or, whatever it is, it's like, and I've never given the same presentation twice, but my message is very similar every single time. It's about grit and overcoming adversity and resilience, right? So it's fundamentally very similar. And every time I ask for feedback, there's usually something that's a little bit different. Like when I went through that acronym, right? The growth mindset, or the resilience, or the integrity, or the team first mentality, right? There's usually an area, one part of each letter that I could improve upon. And it's nice because I'm not saying every person that gives feedback is right, but they usually are. It's kind of like the customer is always right? So if they say you need to improve this, you probably do, you know? And I look at that as what a blessing that people are gracious enough to have internalized to have listened enough to what I was saying to be able to recognize where I need to grow. So,
Well, I love that, because helping people, and I always say better questions give you better responses. And so you asking that one question of, hey, what's just one thing, right? And I love too, what you shared there is what I found is there's some truth with what they're sharing, because that person that's sharing with you is like other people in the audience. You may never get their feedback. There's a piece of truth or some lessons that are there. And so I love that you're doing that. Let's talk about this, because I know a lot of people in our audience and community, they're starting to speak on stages. You're doing that now. You're living that life and battling through, which most people think it's all sexy, and like they see you on stage, they see the highlight reel, and it's like, I want to do that.
Yeah,
it's different, man. It's like the athlete, like you getting to the level you did in the years that led up to it, and the late nights, and I'm sure the training that no one saw. It's just you and the ball, maybe a basket, right? Like all that stuff I know in soccer we did. What advice could you give people on your journey? Because there's some people I know they're wanting to speak, they're wanting to get on stages, share their message and all that stuff. What have you learned as you've leaned into this, and this is really more of a full-time thing for you?
Yeah, well, I think the advice I got from some mentors in my life, Ben Newman, one of them, right?
Love Ben.
Kind of just go for it, man. Just go for it. And obviously it's a risk. The entrepreneurial venture, there's always a risk to it. But I think you got to kind of have a little proof of concept, right? You got to be able to, you can't just jump off the deep end without ever doing it before. And then like, okay, like for me, I couldn't just you couldn't hire me tomorrow and expect me to be a high performer, because I've never done it before. Yeah. I have no idea. I don't really know how to do it. Right. I don't know how to originate a loan. I don't know how. Yeah. So if you've never done it before, don't jump off the deep end and go full force. But once you've proven yourself, then you got to kind of take the chance, take the risk, and always ask for feedback. And especially when you're growing, and I'm still growing. I've been doing this full time for going on 6 years, full time through COVID and everything. So I had a stable corporate job, left November of 2019, a great time to start an entrepreneurial venture, right? 4 months before the world shut down, or at least the world as we know back then. But hey, where's the opportunity there?
That's right.
Like as we were talking about earlier, and thank God for Zoom and Teams and all these other platforms that became really popular and stuff through COVID. But because you can reach more people virtually. Than you can there was one day, I think it was May 2020. I spoke to a financial services firm in New York City in the morning, then Chicago mid-morning, and LA late morning, all Eastern time. So it's like, even if you have your own plane, you can't do that, right? You can't be in 3 places at once. So it's like the reach is there, and take advantage of those opportunities. And do what you can to build the business. And the last thing I'll say, what we were talking about before we started recording, it's not who you know, it's who remembers you, and who's willing to help to pass your name along to others in their network. Because once you prove your value to them, if it's someone they care about and who they know, and if they think you could serve them too, they will gladly pass your name along. And obviously, for me, I'm just so blessed to have so many amazing people in my life, great leaders and people that care about me and care about what I'm doing and value the impact and value that I provide. But always kind of, what do they say? You never get a second chance to leave a great first impression, right?
Yeah.
And always remember that for every time you speak, that could or should turn into at least one other one. It's kind of my goal. So.
I love that, man. We were just having that conversation this week on a couple things I just want to share back, because this is phenomenal. Like, people listening, hopefully they catch this as, we were talking about this before we started recording, but I love this as, it used to be who you knew, and you're talking about that. And now it really is like who knows you well enough to be able to refer you and speak about you in rooms and get you opportunities and make connections. And when you are able to become friends with a connector, like watch out. Like I love to connect people and, always look for people's gifts. And it's like, well, this person should know this person. Watch out. Watch how God will move in that I have seen. And it is so important. If you're not thinking this way we used to think, oh, I know all these people. Yeah, but how well do they know you? And if you're not in the room, are they going to refer you and speak about you in such a way that it's like, man, it's better than you even being in the room. And then when you went on talking about adversity, and we're all going to face this at some point, and how you're a constant learner. I pick up on that on a lot of things you're doing. Is like, no matter what comes, you're going to keep learning. You're going to keep improving. And that is to be commended, because where you are, new dad, all of these things, I think anybody listening can go, man, this has not been the easiest road. While there might've been some seasons, there might've been some things, but like what you've been able to do where you are, you put yourself in a position to win. And what I would love to know as we kind of close out is, what's next? What's next for Austin? What are you working on? What's got you excited for the rest of this year that I can help position, and people that are listening go, okay, cool. This is what Austin's working on. I can support this, or I can help you.
Well, thank you so much for even offering. I really appreciate it. And I'm just, my goal is to continue to impact and inspire the world through my story and presentation, one person at a time. And, my goal is, maybe this is probably, what do they say? You should always have a specific metric on thing. What do they say? Specific and measurable, right? Yeah. So, my goal is not to impact 10 million people or whatever, but so I've done about 400 presentations, and a lot of runway left. And I'm just so blessed to have these opportunities to share my story and message about, grit and thriving in the midst of challenges and adversity. Because the reality is, as we talked about, everybody faces challenges. And if you haven't yet, you will soon, fortunately or unfortunately, right? Obviously, everybody in the world is dealing with something. I'm just very blessed to be able to provide a little perspective. And my hope is that after my presentation, people will think, if he can make it through that, so can I. I can make it through whatever I'm facing. And this doesn't have to be a roadblock. This is a speed bump for sure. And I'm not diminishing anybody's challenges. Everybody's dealing with everything. Everyone's dealing with a big one in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. But most of the time, it's a speed bump. It's a big speed bump oftentimes, but we can find a way through it. And I think the greatest thing for me, the exciting thing for me, is that not only can we make it through it, but we can be better because of it. We can be better because of it, not get better because of the challenge itself, but get better by how it forces us to adapt and respond. Because as you know from sports, finding a different way to win is never a bad thing. That's right. You have a game plan, metaphorically speaking, for your life. You have a scouting report. You think you know what to expect, and then the other team makes you adjust, or life makes you adjust in some way, shape, or form, and you got to find a different way to win. And I think that having that ability to adapt on the fly is an important one. In business, it's important. In family, it's important. In life in general, it's important. And I think just having, again, I'm not going to say the grit is the right way to live or the best way to live or the only way to live, but I think hopefully people that are listening can take away just one thing. I said from that acronym, whether it be the growth mindset or the decision to be resilient, living with integrity, following through on our commitments, or deciding to be a great teammate. And remembering, if it's what the team needs, it's what the team needs. That's right.
Well, thank you for investing time with us. I know this is going to inspire and motivate and encourage people. To your point, wherever they are, I always say is you're coming out of the storm or you're going into the storm. It's life's cycle. And as soon as we can start to realize those patterns and build that resilience and build that growth mindset, I think about very much like a muscle. The more you work that muscle, the stronger it gets. And the same is true on the opposite. If you don't train, you don't work these things, don't be surprised if you wake up one day and, to your point, you're not ready for battle. And so part of our mission of the show is always, how do we showcase people's stories and what they've done, and then also equip them? And you've done that, because now that's the coolest, by the way, grit framework I've heard. I've heard a lot of people talk about grit, do those things, but that's going to stick with me and hopefully sticks with our audience, where when they think about a challenge or going through something, they have something to anchor that and go, okay, I got to work through this. I've got the tools to do it. And so, Austin, thank you, my friend. last thing, where can people find you? I know we're going to link up your website. We'll link up your Instagram, all that stuff. But where is a great place if people want to come hang out with you, learn more, and connect up with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's a great place. I would say that's probably the best place. I'm not really active on Instagram. I spoke at a conference a few years ago, and the CEO said, "You got to get an Instagram." I said, "Okay." I don't really ever post business stuff on there, but it's more pictures of my family. My wife does all the family stuff. So, but yeah, I would say LinkedIn's the best platform. And my website is www.austin-hatch.com. Or email is austin@austin-hatch.com. So would love to connect with anybody. Please reach out. Let me know how I can help or serve in any way. I'd be grateful for an opportunity to get to know anybody in your network, Brian, or anyone who's listening. So really appreciate you having me on again, and look forward to staying in touch for sure.
Awesome, my friend. Well, guys, it's been another great episode, and you can see how Austin has leveraged his competitive edge and what he's overcome, how he's continuing to face adversity head on. And one of the things that stuck with me, I'll close with, is you can't really be mad and angry and grateful at the same time. And so I always say is, you can be grateful for the things you have right now. I want you to think about that as what's one thing you're grateful for in your life right now, and really think about that and be grateful in the moment for where you are. And it's also okay to dream big and have the big vision. We want people to have that. And as you do that, think back to the grit framework. Make sure you connect up with Austin. Let us know how this show's inspired you. I always say is, we don't do this to make money. We don't do this really to sell you anything. But I would love for you, the ask is, share this with a friend. If you haven't left us a review on Apple, leave those reviews. That helps us reach more of an audience. And we're really pushing this year is, how do we get the show and the message and the people that are on here and their stories in front of more people? Because I believe in a world that we've got enough stuff going on. We got enough noise. Let's cut through that and get some people, not only some inspiration, but equip them with the tools to win. So you can help do that. Share this with a friend and make sure you leave a review if you haven't. Until then, we'll catch you on the next episode. See you guys.